They get into these religious, huge movements and the cults as well, and they just sit there. That's not appealing, man. It's so soul killing. It's just soul killing. If a guy, if that's all he's seen, or that's all he got a taste of growing up as a boy, he's out of there, right? It doesn't speak to the masculine soul. It doesn't speak to, give me battle, adventure, and beauty, right? The core things of a man's heart. Where's the war to fight, right? Where's the adventure to live? It doesn't speak to that. Religion doesn't speak to that.
Well, John, it's good to be here with you.
Ryan, great to be with you.
Yeah, I told you I was going to tell you some things only after we hit record, though.
Yeah.
So one of the things I was going to tell you is about 10 years, maybe a little over 10 years ago, I was on an airplane reading Wild at Heart. And it was about the time that I made the decision to start this podcast and movement.
Come on.
And so I was reading the book and really enjoyed it. Then eventually I put it down and was going to take a nap. Not that the book bored me, but ready to take a nap. So I put it in the front seat of the airplane there. And we landed. I got off and realized I forgot the book. I was so frustrated. So I bought another one, read the book, and wanted to tell you it's really interesting. So I started this podcast on March 15th of 2015. And here we are 10 years later talking with you from a book that was really instrumental in helping me start this movement almost 10 years to the day, because I think it's the 12th today.
Yeah, right.
So it's amazing how this
cool
all
is
comes
that?
Around like this.
That's super cool.
So I'm glad to be in studio with you.
Yeah. Happy birthday to the movement.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a movement of ups and downs. I'm sure it has been for you as well.
Yeah, full on.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about this conversation because we were talking a little bit about this beforehand, but it seems to me like there's dwindling numbers of men when it comes to religion, religious participation. But I imagine with spirituality, that seems to be the case as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's always been tough to get men in through waves and seasons. I mean, obviously the first guys that decided to follow Christ were a pretty rough group of guys.
They were,
right?
Hardened men.
And they changed the world, right, through their lives and through their death. But there is a fascinating thing going on right now. But before I go there, let me say a big reason why is the Christian church in the West, at least, took on a really feminine soul.
Yeah.
And getting people around in a group to talk and share their feelings, like that is not a guy kind of a vibe, right? And compassion, empathy, all good things, but it's been very feminine. Even the picture of Jesus that they've presented to the world, gentle Jesus, soft and mild, not super attractive to guys, not a guy that they would follow.
Right.
Certainly not follow like into war. So there's been this collective sort of feminizing, not because of a feminist movement, but just because, women are more eager to serve at church, right? So they tend to fill all the programs and run the Sunday school classes.
So everything's filtered through a female lens is really what it comes down to.
I think it was totally unintentional. I really do. It just happened. And there was a very, very soft view of Jesus that was promoted. And guys are like, yeah, not interested in that. What's fascinating is that there's a shift going on right now. The largest growth movement in the Eastern Orthodox Church is young men.
Yeah.
Have you been to an Eastern Orthodox service?
I know. I don't know the term a father. I don't know his official title, but it's pretty. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, they're priests.
Yeah, priests.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no pews. You stand.
Oh, really?
For 3 hours, and there's something about the rigor, I think, that young guys are gravitating towards. They're like, yeah, give me the real deal, man. Like, I can take it. Don't soften this for me. I am looking for a genuine spiritual life. Don't give me the cookies, right? Like, show me the hard stuff. I'll sign up. I'll go all in. So of all movements, the Eastern Orthodox, like that's very rigorous.
Yeah. I wonder if, like you said, it is because it is the intensity of it,
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
that has to do with it.
Yes.
Do you think what about the distinction between spirituality and religion? Because I
Exactly.
think that's a thing that, a distinction that a lot of people make. And you hear guys is like, I feel closest to God when I'm in the mountains.
Yes.
I understand the sentiment, but sometimes I feel like that's a bit of an excuse not to maybe participate.
Yep.
To me, it would be like being on a football team and saying, I feel like I'm the best when I don't go to practice and I just kind of do it on my own.
Yeah.
Is that off base? I
Yeah.
mean, where do you come and fall when it comes to spirituality and religion?
Yes. Right. Well, okay. So, the evil one tried to stop the revolution that Jesus started by killing him. It backfired badly.
Definitely.
Then he tried to stop it by killing all of his closest friends. I mean, all of them, but John, were killed. It didn't work. And so what he came up with, he's like, man, I got to figure out a way to stop this thing. He came up with a brilliant counterfeit called religion. And I can warehouse millions of people in a sort of quasi connection, but they don't actually know God. And they don't experience the profound restoration of the human soul that Christ was all about. They don't experience it. So they get into these religious huge movements and the cults as well, and they just sit there. Right? That's not appealing, man. It's so soul killing. It's just soul killing. So if that's all he's seen, or that's all he got a taste of growing up as a boy, he's out of there, right? It doesn't speak to the masculine soul. It doesn't speak to, give me battle, adventure, and beauty, right? The core things of a man's heart. Where's the war to fight, right? Where's the adventure to live? It doesn't speak to that. Religion doesn't speak to that. But there is a massive resurgence of spirituality. So you know that one of the growing podcasts in America is a podcast called Blurry Creatures.
Okay, I haven't heard of it.
Okay, you will. These guys are great. They're what they've opened up is, hey, what about the rest of the spiritual world? What's all this UFO stuff? What's all, these different paranormal? Well, they kind of started it as like a sort of a kick.
Right.
It's like a Saturday afternoon thing. Young men have gravitated to that show because guys are looking, the human soul is made for a spiritual life, right? And what you do experience in the woods or on a river or in a really phenomenal moment of prayer, they're looking for that, and religion doesn't deliver, right? So where can we get a genuine spirituality that allows the thriving and frankly, the healing of the soul? For me, that's the big test, right? Because Jesus heals human souls. So is it restoring men? Are they becoming better dads, right? Are they becoming better husbands? Like, that's the acid test. If it doesn't do that, why are we signing up?
Right. What's the point?
Yeah.
That's interesting. When you are out and you hear guys say, and I felt those, I would say, spiritual moments we were talking a little bit about our hunts and things like that. And I felt those moments, and also simultaneously I question, is this divine? Is this spirituality? Or is this me being a human being and just appreciating tying back into my roots or something more physical than spiritual?
Yes. And why would that be different?
What do you mean by that?
Well, this is what happened is we separated the sacred and the secular, so to speak.
Secular, right? Sure.
Yeah, we separated the two worlds. We literally separated nature, but Scripture says that the whole world is filled with the glory of God. So when you experience God's presence, saturates nature in a way it does not saturate your iPhone.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, guys, they get out of the digital and they get out of the crazy and frankly, the artificial. So we could start there, okay? You get out of the artificial world where you don't like the weather, you go,
just change it to 68 instead of 70 or whatever. Exactly,
right? And you want your food? Well, you can just get it delivered to your door. You don't even have to make it, okay? You get out of the artificial, you get out into the real, something happens. The soul responds to the real. It responds to the presence of God, I think, in creation. Now, creation is not God, so I'm not a pantheist, okay?
Right.
But he is out there. And so for us to experience those moments, right, it might be beauty, it might be danger, right? And awe,
Sure.
and like, whoa, we barely made it through that. And there's just a sense of, whoa, I think we were protected in that.
Right.
Okay? Of course. That's far more alive and living than most guys get anywhere else in their life.
I think the distinction that sometimes is hard personally for me to make is if you were to go to church, for example, you were going to be instructed. But if you go out into nature, there's no instruction. There's no manual. There's no do this, do that, do this. And so what is the purpose? I'm not saying it doesn't have its place. Of course it does. But what is the purpose of experiencing that?
Oh,
and how does it heal your soul, like you say?
I am so glad you're asking these questions. I had no idea this is the direction we would end up going. So I was out in nature the other day. I just thrive in it personally. And I know a lot about like medicinal plants and mushrooms that heal and mushrooms that kill you and that sort of thing. And I'm walking through the woods and I'm looking at it going, Father, first off, the natural world is wild. It's not tame.
Not at all.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's a big lesson for the human soul. That is there is a submission that you have to make. If you're not going to die out there, you got to kind of get your stuff together.
Right. I mean, even with mushrooms, you eat that one, you're
Exactly.
dead. You eat that one, you're good.
Bingo.
Right.
The kingdom of God is just like that. The kingdom of God is wild and beautiful, and it is full of danger and full of healing goodness. And we are meant to learn to navigate our way through that. The natural world was supposed to be our tutor. You learn to navigate through the natural world. Here's a basic lesson every boy needs to learn. Every boy needs to learn there is a way things work.
Right.
You cannot turn that canoe sideways in the river, right? You're going to sink, right?
There's a natural order of things.
You cannot stalk that whitetail upwind. You just can't. Like there's a way things, and it's very frustrating for boys because they want the quick, they want the results, that sort of thing. But
they're rebellious in nature too.
Yeah.
They want to fight against the way to do it.
There you go.
Sure.
There you go. So we learn a humility in nature of you can't just do things any old way you want to, right? I mean, you go out there with a 22, you're not going to kill an elk.
No.
It's not going to happen. So there is a submission to reality, right? And this is so deep in the formation of the masculine soul, which is why I think the best thing you can do for young boys and men is get them in nature because it teaches them reality, right? It teaches them you have to accommodate yourself to a world that will either bless you or kill you. You can have phenomenal experiences out there, right? I mean, we've flipped rafts. You know, we've had mountain lion encounters, tons of bear encounters. It's an awesome place to be.
It is.
Right? But you have to conform to its realities. That's a good tutor.
That is interesting because you see the modern world, and what we try to do, I've called it the doctrine of popular culture, is that we try as a culture to manipulate and distort and contort all these concepts and principles to fit whatever makes us feel good.
Exactly.
So you think about the confusion with transgenderism and all these different things that are happening and trying to confuse reality and what unequivocally just is.
Yes, that's right. And the metaverse like you can literally just live in a false reality. That is ultimate human delusion. Right? Well, you just go try and pull that off in a weekend in the desert.
Yeah.
It is not going to go well.
Yeah, try to do it your way. I've had, experiences. I was thinking about one where my oldest son and I'll spare you the story for now, but essentially I almost died on Father's Day falling off a cliff when I was hunting wild goats with him in Hawaii. And there was a moment I'm like, this might be over and there's nothing I can do about it right now. And that's
right.
pretty scary and humbling.
Right. That's right. And so as much as you would say, I don't want that to be my reality, it is your reality.
Right.
Okay. That's why it's such a great tutor. And you're right. The comfort culture and the delusion is we can just create any reality, including, changing our biological gender to, take some drugs,
right,
and grow
move
some
body
facial
parts
hair,
around,
or whatever, But that is a fundamental denial of the world God made. So God is in the reality, as opposed to the artificial or the self-created reality. That's why it is such a great tutor for the masculine soul.
Yeah.
Okay. So to come back to, I'm going to come all the way back to the first question of, why don't men seem to have an interest in spirituality? Because they haven't made the connection that God is in the things you love. You're a cyclist and you're out there and you're cranking 50 miles this weekend. God is in that. He wired you for that. He will meet you there if you give him your attention, right? If you like lifting, if you like fishing, like early mornings, calm water, that's like one of my joy, man. I love water. God created that, created me to love that, and he wants to father me there. Men haven't made that connection. They think, oh, no, it's you go to church, you learn the lessons, that's all God's in. And the rest of the reality is just
something else.
Something else.
Interesting.
Yeah, but he saturates all of his created world, right? And particularly, he pursues our soul through the things that we resonate with. Because some dudes do not have any interest. I got 2 sons who love hunting. My youngest son, who's 30, does not enjoy it.
Right.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Fine.
Find something else.
Totally. Exactly. Yeah. And God will meet him in the things that he loves and draw him in. Because the whole thing is the father-son relationship. That's what he's after.
Sure.
He's after the father-son relationship.
Just like we are with our boys and our daughters.
Yes.
I want a relationship with my children.
Exactly. Right.
I think it has to be done for men primarily in the physical realm.
Yep.
And I'm not saying it needs to be weight training or fishing. It could even be painting, that's done in the physical realm. And it's inspiring. And
Cooking.
Cooking. Yeah.
Right. Because again, cooking is filled with reality. You can't just throw a bunch of stuff in there and hope it's great.
Unless you're in like Boy Scout camp and, then you just all throw whatever you can in there and whoever eats it wins or something. But.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Father-daughter, father-son, that's what you want. You want the relationship. That's what he's after with us. And most guys just haven't made the connection.
Why do you think this is a really deep question, one that's been on my mind for a long time, actually. Why do you think God doesn't need us? We need him, I believe.
Yep.
What is the purpose for what God has created? Why would he need to? Sometimes I wonder, is he the puppet master up there,
right,
dangling all these little, like doing the play and trying to entertain, like I think they talk about in like Greek mythology, where the gods needed playthings.
Yes.
But what is the purpose for God creating this and everything?
Yes. It is a phenomenal answer. He yearns for relationship. Because his heart is very much like yours with your children. You don't necessarily need your children.
Sure.
You could live without them.
And plenty of people do.
Yeah. And you can earn a living and have a meaningful life, right, to some degree, but not totally and completely out of relationship. It's a fascinating thing. Why is solitary confinement a punishment?
The worst punishment.
Of all.
Yeah.
People go mad.
Yeah.
Right? Why is that? Because we are highly relational beings, created in the image of a highly relational God. Okay? He's not a puppet player. He's looking for human partners to join the great story and to be co-creators with him. So Adam and Eve are given the world.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, human partnership. You see that? And then even like the gospel, this to me just blows my mind. God gives the gospel to the church to get out to the world. And I'm like, you could just zap human consciousness. You could just communicate to everybody, seize the airwaves.
Right, and be done.
Yes.
We got it.
He loves human partners. It's the way he rolls. Okay. So what a man's experience is learning first to come into sonship. Mm-hmm. Right?
What do you mean by what? How would you define sonship?
That you have a father, no matter what your earthly father experience has been, and mine was not good. I was raised in an alcoholic home. I didn't want anything to do with Father God, right? And I came in the doorway to spirituality first through Eastern mysticism. We used to eat peyote and go out in the desert and look for God.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever find him?
Not like that. But actually, I'll tell you what happened was we opened the door to the kingdom of darkness. And I saw my best friend get totally demon-possessed. He got picked up, thrown around like a rag doll. It was full tilt.
You experienced that?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Full tilt. And that night I knew we have found the spiritual realm. This is the dark side. I want nothing to do with it. It's so freaking evil, man.
Do you think what do you attribute you opening that realm to? Was it the drug use? Yep. Was it what would you attribute it to?
Yeah. So hallucinogens, which is why as a therapist, I am not on board with the use of hallucinogens to treat trauma, because they don't understand when you mess with human consciousness, you open the door to the kingdom of darkness. They're looking for any door, guys, right? So
any way in.
Oh, yeah. You rage at your neighbor, they're going to jump on that. You know, you're such an idiot, kind of thing. They'll just jump on anything they can. We opened the door. We found the kingdom of darkness. What we were talking about was sonship. So because of my brokenness, I didn't want anything to do with Father God. I came in the door through Jesus because I was like, okay, he's cool. I can relate to him. He's truly a good man. I can follow him, want to be like him, not gentle Jesus, meek and mild with the sheep, and that sort of thing. But the guy who literally descended into hell to rescue us. So that's a man's man right there. Didn't want anything to do with Father for years until I was able to heal the father wound in me and realize, wait a second, I'm projecting onto God all of my father's stuff. He's not like that. So the first step of coming home is that a man realizes that you were created. You have a creator. He had you in mind. He's got a story for you. Psalm 139, all the days of mine were written in your book before one of them came to be. I want to be a part of that. I want to come home to my true Father, right? Even Jesus is wild. He gets baptized in the Jordan and the Father speaks and he says, this is my son. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, isn't that, every man listening to that wants to hear those words from his dad. That, without a doubt.
Starving.
And I want to be able to share those words with my children.
Exactly. And your creator father, your true father, wants to speak that over your life. And that's transformational when you realize that he really does adore you. He really is proud of you. And he has a plan. He's got a role for you to play in the big story. I mean, your mission for the last 10 years, right? It's wild.
Oh, I believe it's divine too.
And unpredictable, but you felt like, no, I'm made to do this. I need to do this. I'm compelled to do this. Yeah. That's the...
Did you look at, when you were talking about Jesus versus God the Father, did you look at God the Father through the lens of your own dad? And I know a lot of people have some real animosity towards God, even believers, because why would he allow certain things to happen?
Yes.
And then did you look at Jesus, the way you're saying it was almost more brother-like.
Exactly.
Versus father-like.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah. And here's a interesting little tangent. We won't get lost in the weeds on this. Men who have a hard time with the Holy Spirit didn't have a good relationship with their mom. Okay. So,
is that more of a feminine
energy? Just because, it's just because the Holy Spirit's described as comforter, counselor,
more
alongside of
right,
you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sure, makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't resonate because of that, you're saying.
Yeah, for guys who have big mother issues, right? And just issues with women in general. I don't think the Holy Spirit is a feminine spirit. I'm just saying that there's a more tender
connection
side.
there.
Yeah. So yeah, I projected father onto God until I realized, wait a second, they're two totally, completely different people, beings. And you asked, because it's related to God loves human partners. We are highly relational beings. Solitary confinement is a horrible punishment. You begin to get a picture of the world. If you want a world in which love is real, you have to allow free will. You can't do puppets.
It's not love. It's not choices. It's not learning.
Exactly.
You're
obligated.
You're forced to.
Exactly. It's not camaraderie. It's not friendship, right? You don't want your friends to hang out with you because they have to.
Right. It's not real.
Oh man, like you're free. I don't want that. I want you to come with me, whether we're rafting or whatever we're doing. I want you to come with me because you want to be there, because we're in this together. The stoke is together, right? That's how God is. And so God allowed free will for angels and men. And angels and men, some of them decided, screw you, man, right?
Yeah. We're out.
That's what led evil into the world. It's not why did God cause evil? He didn't cause evil. He allowed agents free will, humans and angels, and we drove the plane into the side of the mountain.
I also feel like that's part of the reason I feel like we have such a responsibility as men to ward that off. You think about horrific things, sexual perversion and sexual violence against women and atrocities and wars and Christian persecution in Syria going on right now.
Yeah.
And that Congo. And that is part of the reason why it's so crucial that we as fathers and husbands, leaders in our communities, owners of businesses are so vigilant.
Yeah.
Because we have to fight those things off that just are, to your point earlier.
Yes, that's right.
Evil is real and we need to be aware of it.
Yeah, that's right. Teddy Roosevelt's great line, people sleep peacefully at night because rough men stand ready to do harm against those that would be violent. Yes, and you see that. It is so deep in boys. Why does he want to be Spider-Man? Why does he want to be a Jedi Knight? My boys would make guns out of every stick they picked up in the woods. I still do that. Yes, bazookas and all that. Yes. Okay, because the warrior heart God put into every boy, because one day he's going to have to be that for his family and his community, right? And it was, so this is back to why the church thing wasn't appealing. We didn't appeal to the warrior. Right? We even said the warrior is wrong, right? Don't be aggressive. Right. Just be nice. Well, that's soul killing.
For a boy.
Yes. Little boy does not, he doesn't want to, give me that lightsaber. Right? Here's a marshmallow.
Or I even think about conflict with young boys. I've got 3 boys and a girl, and my youngest in particular, he wants to fight physically.
Yep.
And I actually think it can be a healthy thing.
Yep.
If you let boys solve a little bit within reason, let them tussle.
Yes.
Like let them roughhouse. Let them, if they need to fight it out, let them fight it out. Because at some point, and the interesting thing about that I've seen with boys fighting, probably more so than women young girls, I'm talking primarily, who fight, is with women, they'll remain mortal enemies forever.
Yes.
And with boys, you see 2 boys get in a fight, and they're punching each other and hitting each other and doing whatever they can do to win. And then an hour later, they're like, all right, we're square.
You want to go fishing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It's such an interesting phenomenon to me.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we're wired so differently. If we can affirm the warrior heart in the boy and hook it up to a good cause, right? And so when Sam, our oldest, used to wail on his younger brothers, I'd say, I would not punish him for being strong. Say, Sam, you are strong. God made you strong to protect your brothers. Okay?
Channeling it, funneling
exactly. Hook it up to something good. Yeah, that's huge. And then therefore, that's Jesus, right? He wants warriors to join him in his fight against evil.
I agree. And you need to be hardened to be able to do that.
You do.
You can't be soft.
That's right.
Yeah, that is an interesting take. It's so,
What's so fascinating right now, Ryan, is look at all the cold plunging and the ultra running and the heavy lifting and all these programs, the meat diet. Like, men are looking for rigor. Train me, doggone it. Show me how. Show me the way, right?
Yeah.
So you get guys like Jordan Peterson that get these huge followings. Men are looking for fathering. Show me the way. And Jordan Peterson shoots straight with guys. He's like, stop being Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Suck it up, man.
He is an interesting phenomenon because he's not somebody I would generally consider to be in the physical warrior realm.
Right.
But from an intellectual perspective and the way that he communicates, he has that presence about him.
Exactly. He's a different kind of warrior.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because then you take somebody like Jocko Willink.
Yep.
And he's also an intellect, but that's often overshadowed by his physical presence, his military career, and both are attractive too.
Or Joe Rogan.
Right, same fighter.
Come on.
Yeah.
Shoot straight, man up, let's go. And oh man, guys, like, if you will look at the wilderness, you will learn so much about the nature of God. He is wild. He is dangerous. He is immensely good and full of life, right? The world is just teeming with life, okay? That's who you want to follow.
Yeah. Well, as we were talking about people that we naturally gravitate towards as men, there's another one that comes to mind, but doesn't harness it and channel it through, I think, real virtuous living, and that's somebody like Andrew Tate.
Exactly.
But he has that warrior communication style.
Right.
We're in the matrix. We're fighting against everything. He hasn't channeled that towards something virtuous.
Exactly.
But it is still attractive to a lot of men who aren't able to differentiate what is righteous and what isn't.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
How do you do that?
Yeah. How do
you know who to follow? I mean, obviously, follow Christ, follow God, sure. But there's other people that we should be looking to for guidance and inspiration, I think.
Yes. Jesus gave us this really easy tool. He said, you'll know them by their fruit. You'll know it you can test a school, a government, an idea, a company by that basic idea. Well, what's the fruit of it? What does it accomplish? What does it do to people, right? Does this make men better men? Does it make them better dads? That's good fruit. Follow that.
Yeah, it's as easy as that.
It is.
Simple.
Yeah, and if it doesn't do that, no matter how much hoorah is there, guys, it's narcissistic. It's selfish. I mean, let's just be honest. A lot of that stuff is turned inward to, I just want to feel better.
Right.
And I want to feel strong. You go, okay, in order to serve what? This is, again, the nature lesson for boys. The big lesson is, you're invited into a wonderful world, a world full of adventure, okay? It's not about you.
Right.
It's not about you, okay? That lesson, many men have not still learned. It's not about you, pal, right? This isn't about the next car, the next motorcycle, the next, stoke. Like, there's a narcissistic version of the warrior life. It's not about you, pal. Who are you living for? Who are you laying your life down for, right? That's the gold.
Yeah. Well, I think there's this big thing in society. It's just like this happiness movement maybe, where it's, I just want to be happy. Well, that's easy. Go, like you were saying, go change the thermostat.
Exactly.
Go watch something on your computer.
Absolutely.
Go partake in your drug of choice. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to be happy in the moment.
That's right. And here's the fascinating thing. You shall know them by their fruit. Those people aren't very happy.
Interestingly enough.
Isn't that fascinating? Yeah. Right? No matter how much they buy, no matter how much they eat, no matter how many vacations they take, how many women they sleep with, they're like, why am I not happy?
Right.
Because that chasing happiness is the big lie.
So you're saying that the better pursuit, or what are you saying? Is it chasing service to others, or what is it that you suggest men pursue?
You first need a life with God. God is the great reality. And when you deny reality, you begin to move into really bad human behavior. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, this is Scott Peck. Years and years ago, The Road Less Traveled. It's one of the first big sort of wake up, hey people books. And Scott Peck says, emotional health is accepting reality at all cost.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I thought about this with all the transgender issues. I just saw a study the other day because the big talking point is you're doing this for their health, to reaffirm their gender,
right,
and they're less depressed, anxious, suicidal, et cetera. I just saw a study the other day that they had reviewed these individuals over, I think it was 2 to 3 years. And lo and behold, people that have assumed they're another gender or even taking steps in surgery towards being another gender are less happy.
That's right.
More anxious.
That's right.
More depressed and more suicidal.
That's right.
Because they're not accepting reality.
Exactly. Yeah. So Peck's thing was emotional health is accepting reality at any cost. And emotional disease or mental disease, mental unwellness is denying reality at any cost. Well, God is the great reality. So the first thing we have to do is come in alignment with him. Go, you are my Father. I am your son. I'm sorry for living such a self-centered life. I'm sorry. It's been all about me. I don't want it to be all about me. What is the story you have for me? What is the story you have for me? And guys, like that life is phenomenal. And I'll give you 2 stories on 2 levels. So we're elk hunting several years ago. And we're on the edge of this canyon. We can hear the bull bugling down in there. He's got a huge group of cows with him, some satellites. And I'm standing on the edge of the canyon waiting, because normally what they do is in the evening, they feed up into the meadow that's behind me. So I'm in like the perfect ambush spot.
Right when they come in.
Totally.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, they don't.
Of course.
And they wander off down the canyon. And I'm just like, dang, man, I've been here all day waiting for them to come up.
Yeah.
Right. And so God, my Father, says, get in the woods. In other words, bomb down in there. And I'm like, Papa, I love you, but the elk are gone if you didn't notice. Okay. He's like, trust me, get in the woods.
I want to clarify. You're saying God or you're saying your Father?
No, God.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, God.
Okay.
Yeah, my earthly father is now with him in heaven.
Got it.
I'm like, Father, I'll obey because you are in charge, but they're gone. So I go down in the woods. I get against a tree. I get a fairly decent ambush spot, and I just wait. And the entire herd turns around and works their way back into the woods. And pretty soon I am surrounded by elk. It was such a cool night. I didn't end up killing a bull. I killed a cow that night, but it was awesome.
But you had an amazing experience.
Oh, it was incredible. Okay. So
with that, I want to ask a follow-up question.
Yep.
To that. How is that relevant to God's design and purpose? It's like sometimes I wonder, like, does it matter?
It does matter.
I remember when I was, and I'll share one quick story. I want to hear the end of yours.
Yes, please.
But when I was playing baseball when I was a kid, I think it was my junior year, and we were in the playoffs, and it was a very close game. If we would have won that game, we would have went to the state championship. And I remember sitting in the dugout, and I said a prayer. God, please help us play well. Please help us win this game.
Yeah.
And in a moment, I think of clarity, I thought to myself, well, all the other players on the other team are praying for the same thing for themselves.
Yeah.
Does this actually matter?
Yes.
And so I would like to hear why it matters.
Well, first off, the relationship matters. The relationship is everything. Just like the last thing you want to lose is relationship with your daughter and relationship with your son.
Sure.
I mean, that's the worst,
Yeah,
right? To lose
absolutely.
relationship. Okay. Well, God feels the same way. Okay. So the relationship is what matters. And what those smaller lessons teach us, because yours wasn't a question of obedience.
Mm-hmm.
Yours was a question of, we'd really love to have your blessing
please
here.
bless us with this.
Yeah. And who knows why those things do and don't work out.
That's a good point. Obedience versus, that's a good point.
Okay. So then a bigger scale obedience. So I'm a young therapist. I'm sitting in my office one night, and I'm in a marriage session, and after the session, I just lingered there because I just felt like God wanted to say something to me, and he said, "You're only talking to 2 people. I want you to talk to a lot more than that." That's all he said. I'm like, what? So then I kind of pursue it, which is the relationship. And over the course of a week, I'm like, what do you want me to do? And he said, quit your job. I have bigger things for you. And so I go on the obedience, right?
Massive obedience required.
Massive obedience and
faith.
trust. Same week, my publisher calls. I'd written an initial book with my colleague called The Sacred Romance. They called and they said, hey, we'd really like you to write again. What do you have? And I said, well, one of the books I want to write is a book for men called Wild at Heart. And that launched what has now been a 25-year wild story of adventure. I mean, they're using Wild at Heart in the Medellin cartel drug prisons. Dudes are coming to Christ. Yes, they do Wild at Heart Bible studies down there.
That's
all
amazing.
over the world. They use it in monasteries in Slovakia, right? I mean, just wildness. Well, because you hook up in obedience to the wild one, right? And follow him. So I would say that the idea is, what's the first move you said? The first move is the relationship. You're my father. I'm your son. I want to do this together.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
Well, I also think, as you were saying, I didn't consider that, the obedience part versus, hey, bless me with what I think I need or want, versus I'll follow you.
Yes.
That's interesting. I also, as you were saying that, I was thinking, he's not going to give you something grand like leading millions of men across the planet if you can't walk down the canyon and go sit by a tree that he told you to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And see, this is what happens. So there are stages to the masculine journey, okay? You go from beloved son to the cowboy stage to the warrior, the lover, the king, the sage. We can unpack that another time.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay. But there are stages of development, and you see it in every boy's life. Every boy's life. He gets around 12, 13 years old, something shifts in him. He wants a bigger adventure. He wants more challenge, more training, right?
Wants independence. I've seen that in my boys.
Yes, absolutely, right? Because something's shifting from the Lego years, right, into what I call them the cowboy years, because he needs hard work and adventure. That's what trains the young man, hard work and adventure. But here's the point. Too many men become kings. Give me a big ministry, give me a big company, make me successful, and they're still boys inside. And that's why they blow up their worlds, right? I need a different wife. I need 3 different women, right? I'm going to buy myself a bunch of cars. I'm going to do all this. He's still a boy inside, but he's been given a man's kingdom, right? That's why you don't want that. You don't. And so a lot of times God will withhold his blessing because you aren't ready to handle it.
I've thought about that in hardship, is that, whether it's, I went through a divorce, I went through alcohol abuse and addiction, and, everybody has things they've gone through. We all have things. And one of the thoughts that has helped me get through those challenging times is, if you can get through this, then something better, greater, grander is on the others. If you can't get through it, you're just going to have to repeat it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to repeat what I'm experiencing right now.
That's right. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, my friend Dan says, don't waste your pain. Don't waste your pain, man. Learn the lessons so that you don't have to repeat them.
How do we introduce this? Let's say we move from the Lego stage, like you're saying, to this king stage without that cowboy stage. How do we infuse that into our lives? How do we recognize it and infuse it into our lives? And conversely, how do we do that for our boys?
Yeah, that's beautiful. First off, among men, all of us are unfinished men. All of us. We're houses under renovation, okay? That's okay. It doesn't disqualify you. It just means, there's work to be done. There's things to be healed, things to be strengthened. So if you are biologically at the age of manhood, but you don't feel very well formed inside, you're going to want to get yourself in the context of some men who are chasing that, right? I mean, anything and everything from join the Y, man. Go down there and play hoops every Thursday night with guys. That will form you.
Yeah.
It will, right?
No doubt.
Okay.
And you learn a lot about yourself in those types of environments.
It's embarrassing.
And other people.
Man. Totally, right? Where's that rage from?
Exactly.
Where's that shame from? Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. Get yourself in the context of some men who are chasing that, right? And so that's why we built, finally, like we got this thing on our website now. It's the coolest thing in the world. It's called Wild at Heart Local. And you can get on there and it literally shows you the world. You put in your address and it shows you, here are men in your area who are chasing this.
Oh, that's cool.
Join this group, go to this thing, join this thing. It's like, get into something.
Right.
Okay, get into something. For boys, as dads, we turn and we go, oh, so their initiation into manhood is a big part of my job. Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, he's got 2 fundamental needs. He needs to know you adore him, and he needs to know he has what it takes.
Right.
Those are his core questions.
I've heard the second one. I haven't heard the first. You've talked a lot about, do I have what it takes?
Yes, but the love is the foundational thing, right? Because otherwise it's fear and performance then. Okay, but he goes, my dad loves me, loves to wrestle, loves to read books. We go for ice cream, we ride bikes. He just likes me. Okay, that's foundational. He's got to have that. And this is something that you communicate over 1,000 lessons, right? Where he says, hey, Dad, are you free tonight? And you go, yes. Even though inside you're
Every
dying.
time you're like, oh, I got that book that I got to write, or that project or the game.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yep.
You go, yes, you are worth my time. I still have to do that with my sons. You are worth my time.
Yeah.
Okay? And so I will deliberately pursue my adult sons. I will say, you want to go for lunch? You want to go fishing, right? You want to hang out? You want to take a trip with me, right? You want to come on this trip I'm going on? Okay. Boys crave that. Men crave that, right? You are worth my time. I love you. Okay. And then you both tell him you have what it takes. But the more important thing is that you lead him into experiences where he discovers it for himself, right? You set him up for success.
Does there have to be opportunities of failure in those experiences?
There will be.
Not even whether you decide or not.
Exactly. Guarantee.
Yeah.
It will happen, so he takes the training wheels off, and he gets the bike, he's going to crash.
Right.
Okay. Sure. That's all right. If dad's there to pick him up, those don't end up being shameful lessons. If dad's there to pick him up and say, you're all right, son. You're all right. You okay? I love you. Let's get back on and try it again. Okay. Over the course of the years. And then you don't do the hardcore stuff first. And I think this is why my youngest son doesn't like hunting, was I took him into it too young.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just his tender little heart,
Yeah.
and killing that first deer and all that. I just think he wasn't ready for it.
It was too much in the moment.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big time. And so age appropriate challenges where he discovers, whoa, I do have what it takes. I did do that. Right?
Yeah.
I jumped my bike over the jump. I ran in the race. I signed up for speech class and I crushed it. Like, it doesn't always have to be outdoor stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
It shouldn't always be.
Right.
It's got to be well-rounded.
Yeah. And so you're initiating your son into young manhood with the confidence that you are loved and you have what it takes. And then the big lesson we've been talking about today is you have a strength and it's for others.
Figure out what it is and who you're supposed to serve.
Who are you going to serve? Yeah. Who are you going to follow? Right?
Yeah. It's not the same for women. I was going to ask if it's the same for daughters. It's not. I imagine there's elements that are similar.
Yep.
But what would you say is, for lack of a better term, the initiation process for a young daughter into womanhood?
Yes, absolutely.
From a man's perspective. Obviously, your mom needs to be involved and do things that you can't do as a man.
Yes. Well, this is a really fascinating thing. So boys and girls learn value from mom. And it goes all the way back to you are worth feeding.
Internal value and worth?
Yes.
Okay.
Internal worth comes from mom. You are literally worth taking care of.
Right.
Okay. I will clothe you. I will feed you. You're worth nurture.
And you can't do absolutely anything for me and you're still worth it.
Bingo.
Right.
Okay. They learn gender identity from dad. Isn't that fascinating? So the little girl, when she puts on her twirling dress, she says, Daddy, do you see me? Do you delight in me? Do you think I'm pretty? Right?
Yes.
Oh, that's huge. And if the number one predictor of whether a girl's going to sleep with boys in high school is if she has a dad who loves her.
Yeah. I've heard that because I think Dr. Warren Farrell talks about this and Dr. Leonard Sachs talks about this. And I'm paraphrasing, but they said that if she can learn to be valuable in a man's eyes outside of her sexual attractiveness, she won't have to use sexual attractiveness to get the attention of men.
To get love.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. Yeah. So she's asking two similar questions. She's asking, do you love me? Same question. But the question, do I have what it takes? Not so much. The question for her is more, am I worth fighting for? Will anybody fight for me? Okay. And then, courage lessons, because little girls need to learn bravery.
Sure.
Right? Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. And that your particular gifting matters. Right? So if you are athletic, let's go into athletics. But if you're not, I'm not going to force you there.
Right.
I value who you are. I value what your soul is wired to do. And there's an initiation she goes through, but we haven't written that book yet.
Not yet. Yet being the key word.
Yes.
Because that is one of the questions I get a lot. Obviously, this is a men's movement, and I speak to men, and boys are easier than my daughter. Just naturally, I think that's pretty common.
Yes.
But I do get a lot of questions about, I've got this girl and I don't know what to do.
Yes.
And I get it. I can feel that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What would you say? I want to go back to
for one thing, I would say make sure she has women mentors.
Good women in her life.
Yep.
Yeah.
And mature women in her life. Aunts, grandmothers, teachers, coaches. Yep.
Yeah. One thing I've often thought about too is in those contexts is let them do womanly things that you don't understand.
Exactly.
Like go dress up and do a tea party. Go do girls' night out. Like do your what I don't know.
Yes.
It doesn't appeal to me.
Yep.
But I don't need to understand it.
Yes.
But conversely, the women need to let the men go do what the men do.
That's
and you don't need to understand why we like going to wrestle or fight or fish or hunt. You don't need to understand it. Just honor it.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in that honor culture, there's not disrespect. It's not, we're not belittling the women because they don't want to go out and ride motocross. Some do.
Yeah.
Right? We're not belittling them for that. Right? It's like you're different. You're wired differently. I respect that.
Right.
I respect who you are. Okay. And then same thing back women to the men is I respect who you are. And the big test is if you come back from that outing a better husband, she's going to dig it.
Oh, she'll want you to, she will kick you out of the house.
Exactly, guys. This is a no-brainer, man.
But if you come back drunk,
yes,
or the potential of stepping out on her, or a jerk, or more distant, of course she doesn't want you to go hang out with the boys.
Totally.
Why would she want you to go do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you shall know them by their fruit.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. I think about this idea of athleticism with my daughter. You know, she never really had much desire to play sports or anything. And so we just kept trying different things. And then she got into dance, specifically ballroom dancing. And she had a performance 2-3 months ago. I was blown away. I was like, I didn't realize you were this good.
And it is athletic, man.
Super athletic.
It's exhausting.
Yes. And she had got up there and did her thing. And she's tall for her age. So she really stood out. I'm like, okay, so the traditional sports that I think of weren't her cup of tea, but this is her arena.
It was
pretty cool to see.
Yeah, one of the guys on our team has a daughter who, got into the Irish dance thing. He's like, oh, good grief.
I know.
He's a climber. He loves rock climbing. He's like, come on, let's go climbing, but he saw delight in what she delights in. Delight in what she delights in. And so he invested a lot of money over the years. Those little dance outfits are expensive.
And travel and
just time.
Crazy.
I got to take her to practice tonight. Yeah. Right. But she has flourished as a young woman. So part of the woman's journey is, that one of the fundamental things you're going to fight for the girls is shame. Shame is just pernicious for women and a failure of confidence, right? So it's the same kind of thing of you have what it takes. You put her in situations where she's going to succeed and not be shamed, where she builds a self-confidence. And this core idea is women bring life. It's like literally bear life. Okay.
Yes.
But you just think about like nurses, right? And teachers. Yeah. They literally bring life to the world. So what you're imbuing in her is you have power to bring life. Where would you like to bring life? You have power to bring life. If she learns that lesson, I do. I have power to bring life. You do, sweetheart. Now, where do you want to invest that? Well, I want to go to grad school. Awesome, hun.
Let's do it. Let's figure out a plan.
Exactly.
Yeah. What if women bring life? What do men bring?
Many things. How do I answer that? If women bring life, what do men bring? Men bring protection and covering, right?
What do you mean by covering?
Oaks of righteousness. Isaiah 61, it talks about, because you and I both came out of brokenness background into healing, right?
Sure.
Well, that's Isaiah 61. I will heal the brokenhearted. I will set the captive free. They will become oaks of righteousness. So
that's a great visual too.
Isn't it?
It is.
Well, and under that spreading oak tree, things can take refuge and flourish, right? So he's got a small company. The people in his company really flourish. And maybe he intentionally hires single moms and he gives them a safe place, right? To earn a living and to be protected and not be used by men, right? It's that covering idea. Yeah.
You know who comes to mind? Do you know a gentleman by the name of Jason Wilson?
Mm-mm.
You should know Jason. He's in Detroit. He's an incredible human. He just wrote a book called The Man the Moment Demands, and he talks about the concept of being comprehensive. And he is working with young men in Detroit that come from broken homes, a lot of single families, fathers, mothers in prison.
Yeah.
And he's tough on them.
You know, you're the priest, the pastor, you run the congregation, the people under you flourish.
Yeah.
You shall know them by their fruit. You look at the dude and you go, what's it like to be under his care?
Yeah, I mean,
it's the acid test, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, for the right people, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny when you're talking about letting your children find their path, because you said your youngest doesn't like to hunt?
Right.
My second doesn't.
Yeah.
And I invited him on this hunt. This was a couple of years ago. And I said, hey, do you want to hunt? He's like, no. And he said it just like that.
Yes.
Not like, oh, I'll think about it. No, he's like, no, I don't want to do that. And I said, why? And he gave me the best answer I've ever heard. He said, I don't like to be cold. I don't like to be tired. And I don't like to be bored. And I'm like, that's fair. Like that is it. Because you are going to experience all three of those.
Lots of that.
And he started to get into sneakers, tennis shoes. And I don't care about, but he loves them. And he loves cars.
Yeah.
Two things I don't really care a whole lot about.
Yeah.
And he tells me about this model and that model and how this one is this and this one has this engine. And we've had a rocky relationship in a lot of ways, but I see as I pour more interest into him and those things that I am personally not interested in, he opens up.
Yep.
And a couple of weeks ago, he came to me and he's like, Dad, can I show you something? Yeah, of course. And he had this book and he opens it up and he's been drawing and I had no idea. And he's amazing. And I had no idea.
Wow.
But for him to open up that way, I think speaks to what you're saying. When you pour into what their interests are, they become interested in the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah. Interesting. I do want to go back to something you said on I think you were talking about a scriptural reference in Isaiah, if I remember correctly. And you were talking about every page, I'm paraphrasing, has been written for you.
Oh, Psalm 139.
A psalm. Yeah. Okay.
Psalm 139. All the days of mine were written in your book, O Lord, before one of them came to be, which is not meaning God micromanages your life, but it means you have a story.
Right.
You have a place. You have a purpose, a destiny, a calling. You have an identity. And where guys really get off the rails is when someone in their life, influential, gives them identity that's not theirs. Right? Either through shame, violence, abuse, where it's like, you suck, you're nothing, you'll never be anything. And that guy was actually supposed to end up, being a president of a multinational corporation. He just couldn't do it.
Right.
Because he was under so much shame. Right. Or when they reward him for the wrong things, it's like, well, I don't care about your drawing. I want you to come hunting.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, instead you affirm the drawing and you go, oh, maybe part of his destiny is in that, right? Maybe he's an illustrator, a designer, right? And you go, that's good. I'm going to affirm that. That's part of God's plan for your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, how does that compare? And another thing that you said, what you were talking about, I'm paraphrasing again, but that a man wants his agency. He wants free will.
Yes.
He wants to be able to make
Yes.
decisions on his own, have
Yes.
that autonomy.
Yes.
And I know there's a debate whether or not in the concept and conversation of God, where everything has been written and is, and maybe even destiny, compared to free will. Can you have free will if that exists? Or do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I've had some
Yes.
deep thoughts about this personally, but I want to hear what you have to say about
Yeah.
it.
Meaningful choices in a limited sphere. Meaningful choices in a limited sphere. You don't get to choose whether the sun comes up tomorrow,
Sure.
okay?
Yeah.
But you choose a lot of your life. Just look at obedience, disobedience, right? You choose whether you're going to obey or not. And you pay the consequences for that. So we make absolutely, Pascal called it the dignity of causation.
Okay.
God gives every man the dignity of choices that matter. You get to cause things to happen, good and bad.
And you have to live with whatever the consequences of those decisions are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of that training of the boy in the woods, right? There's a way things work.
Sure.
You know, if you choose right, you're going to flourish. You choose wrong, you're going to get hurt or maybe hurt others. Yeah.
I've thought about this concept of consequence. And so we oftentimes will rob our children of consequences. And I use rob deliberately because if they don't get to experience the hardship of bad decisions, they'll just keep making bad decisions.
Yeah.
Because there's no consequence. There's no reason not to.
Yes. This is the most difficult lesson of parenting. Because for two reasons. One, because usually their pain is much more painful than your pain. You're like, I'll take it. But to watch your child suffer is horrible, whether it's rejection or failure or loneliness or, school and maybe a learning disability is horrible, right? You have more angst than they do over it.
We also have more reference on, your first broken relationship. I mean, yeah, okay, like not even a big deal.
Yes.
But when you're 15,
yeah, man,
that's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And we have to treat it like it is for their sake, right? We help them with it. But we also have to be honest about this. The other reason we want to spare our children hard lessons is because we don't want the hassle.
Personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he gets detention at school. That's a hassle for you. Right? Or whatever it is,
Sure.
right? Yeah. He gets fired from another job at the burger place. That's a hassle for you. You're like, oh man, I thought we had something rolling here. Yeah. I thought things were going. So we just need to be honest that a lot of that has to do with our own personal comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. How does a man become acquainted with some of what we've been talking about, specifically in the realm of the spiritual experiences that you say, we're craving, we desire.
Yes.
Like, how does a man, especially those who are very pragmatic, and I tend to be one of those types.
Yep.
Where it's like, well, show me, like, prove to me that that's the way, or that's what is, and I'll do it.
Yeah,
I will do it.
Yeah,
but I want to know. I want to know first.
Yes.
What can we do on a practical level?
Let me first describe the moment that we're living in. So we've just come through the ashes of the Enlightenment and like 400 years of just the worship of the left brain. And it's all critical reason. And if you can't explain it through critical reasoning in the latest science,
it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, or shoot it. We
Right.
just shut it down. We just kill it. But that has left, you have a right brain. That's like half a human being. You are critical reasoning. You are not only critical reasoning, okay? Or why do you like to be outside? It doesn't fit with critical reasoning.
That's true. Because there's no good reason to be out there when I can be in here, climate control. Yes.
Exactly.
Tired. Yes.
Okay.
Good point.
Because there's other parts of you that need to come alive, okay? So let's just start with let the other parts of you show up. This is really important for men. You have a poetic side, warrior poet. You do. There are songs from high school that make you cry when you're driving.
No doubt.
Oh, come on, man.
Even running down the road today, so I listen to some hair metal mostly when I'm running.
Yeah.
And I'm like singing as I'm running.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not me at all. And I'm doing it.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's the rest of you. Let the rest of you show up, guys. You're not just critical reasoning. And you're a profoundly spiritual being. You were made that way by a profoundly spiritual being. Okay. So you've got to begin to open up how might God be relating to me right now? How might he be talking to me? Okay. He's going to talk to you through wise men and women. He's going to talk to you through good podcasts, right? But he's also going to talk to you. He's going to whisper to you through transcendent moments. Okay. It's the cup of coffee in the morning. You're looking out the window, the snow softly falling, and you're like, holy smokes, man, that's really beautiful.
This is nice.
Yeah. God's in that. He's like, yeah, you like that? I made that. Right? Yeah. So you just begin to open up to something that's beyond critical reasoning that I would just call a little bit of the transcendent, right? A little bit of the spiritual. And then you should go try church, guys. You should go check it out and see. Now, some people like the rock and roll. Some people like the Eastern, traditional Orthodox thing, the liturgy, right? You have to find the language. God is going to speak to you in your native language. He will speak to you in the tongue that your soul gets. Okay, so he's not going to shove you into a church experience that you're like, this is killing me. Well, then you got to go try something else.
That's interesting because most people will say, this is the only church that you should ever go to.
I know. I know. And I would say within Christendom.
Sure, right.
I would say.
What'd you say? Few choices and parameters.
Meaningful choices in a limited sphere.
Yes, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good catch, Ryan. I like that. Same thing's true with our spirituality. Meaningful choices in a limited sphere, right? Don't go eat ayahuasca, and try and do transcendent things. You will have a spiritual experience. But I'll guarantee you what you invite in is a whole pack of demons. Okay? Stay within the protective Christendom that, the family of God, and then listen to a few Bible podcasts. Listen to some interesting teachers, right? The guys out of Portland that have something called the Bible Project. Their podcast is killer.
Is it? Okay.
Oh, it's fascinating.
Yeah. The Bible Project?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're super interesting to listen to.
That's what we want. Like, I can read the scriptures. Yeah. I want to know about the stories and the lessons and the experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Start there. Try that.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, we're going to link people up to your work. You've got a new book.
I do.
And so talk to me about the book and let the guys know where to go because it's out right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of what we talked about is woven throughout the book.
Yes, it is.
So.
Yeah. So the book is called Experience Jesus, period. Really, period. Because the big bait and switch offer was, hey, if you come to our church, kind of thing, you're going to really find God. And people are like, I never found him there. I just got a lot of guilt and shame, You're meant to experience God deeply. And so this is like from a spiritual mentor guiding you through, hey, let me just describe what the internet does to you. You want to detox a little bit from that, okay? Let me describe how God comes to you and speaks to you. Let's walk a little bit in that direction together. So yeah, the book is called Experience Jesus, really.
Well, we'll sync it up. You talk about some other concepts that we just didn't get the chance to talk about, which is the distraction age that we live in with. I can actually feel my phone vibrating at me right now.
Doggone it.
I know. I should have turned it off and put it over there.
I know.
I've done pretty well at limiting distractions to the degree that I can, but we're highly distracted.
Yeah.
And you talk about the concept of the ordinary mystic, I believe, as well.
Yes.
So there's some interesting concepts that are new to me that I've enjoyed learning more about.
Great. Yeah. That's you just tell the left brain, just put the gun down for a minute and let the right brain part of you out.
Yeah.
The part of you that's singing while you're running.
I was getting like chills. This is so weird. This is not me.
Right. It's the rest of you.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And you want to be a wholehearted person. Yeah. So that's the idea of being ordinary mystics is we're letting a little bit of the transcendent in. Right? When I'm in the woods, I realize, oh my gosh, you are so here. You are so here. You are wild and you are good. Right? You're letting that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, this has been a real privilege to be here and talk with you.
It's been a joy.
I appreciate all your insights. Obviously, as I started the conversation, your work has been instrumental in my life. So I'm very grateful. And in turn, instrumental in the lives of other millions of men who have listened vicariously to your message through some of what I've been able to share.
Yeah. So as spiritual father, let me say, well done.
Thank you.
Well done, Ryan. You're helping people. You're offering your strength on behalf of others. That's good stuff.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It means a lot. Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.